Okay, welcome back to Countdown to Destruction. This is episode 7. This is our podcast looking back at The Leftovers. My name is Matt Waters. I am viewing this show for the very first time. And I am joined by Ben Phillips, who is a massive stan for Damon Lindelof and has seen this show a whole bunch. Ben, how are you this fine evening?
I'm good.
We probably shouldn't use that term stan, should we? But, I mean, it's funny.
It is. I am a Leftovers stan. I am a David
Yeah,
Lindelof
but
stan.
let's think about the real context of that song. Like, that dude, kills...
I'm not about to kill my pregnant girlfriend and drive off a bridge.
Sounds like an episode of The Leftovers, to be honest. So it would be a fitting tribute if you did. So we are looking at episodes 3 and 4 of season 2. We are away from Mapleton. Well, actually, we're kind of not for a bit
This is the first episode of the season where we have a full episode in Mapleton.
Yes, or the surrounding area. I'm not entirely sure on where they...
It is in New York.
They're in New York State. We don't know if they're still in Mapleton. But yeah, but generally, this season... we are in Jarden, we have our new setting. We talked last week about how we now have this kind of, the town is a part of the show, is a part of the conceit, is a part of the tension. There's weird mysteries going on with the location, and I like when shows use a location in that manner. I like creepy towns. That being said, let's head back to New York for Off Ramp, which aired October 18th, 2015, directed by Carl Franklin. He did that, I guess he did the reshoots on BJ and the AC, and then he got to do guest. And written
One of those is significantly better than the other.
It sure is. I get the feeling his reshoots were probably better than what was... Anyway, written by Damon Lindelof and Patrick Somerville, who I believe is making his debut. I have never heard of him before. I don't know if he's written anything of note.
I think he's the guy that's writing Maniac, that new Netflix series with Emma Stone and Jonah Hill.
All right. Well,
It's directed by Cary Fukunaga.
So, I could lay out point by point the plot of this episode, but it's actually quite a simple one, but there's a lot to talk about within it, so I am still going to go into detail.
Of the first 3 episodes of the season, we've had the episode that focuses on Murphys, the episode that focuses on the Garveys,
yes,
and Nora, and now we literally have an episode which is kind of pretty much entirely about Laurie, with a little bit of Tom sprinkled in.
And then a surprise cameo from Meg. Anyway, so the situation now, the last time we saw Tom and Laurie, they were just sort of wandering off together in the aftermath of the fire. He left the baby with Kevin. Kevin and Jill have moved down to Texas, so let's see what has happened with Tom and Laurie. And what has happened is Tom infiltrates GR chapters and infiltrates the houses, posing as a new recruit. He identifies those that are sort of struggling with the lifestyle of the GR, and he leads them away to Laurie, who is running a support group for former members of the GR. She's rented an office space, which she is behind on paying for, and yeah, she's talking again. I'm glad of that for Amy Brenneman's sake. She gets to show she's a good actress. The challenge of being silent in this show, it's a cool one, but I think it only has a certain shelf life, and if you're going to have actors of this caliber, you need to let them do their thing. And Laurie, she spent 90% of the first season not talking. She was very good. I might say she was the best of the silent characters, and now she's talking again, and she's doing her therapy thing, and this is their mission, this is their setup.
Yeah, we're at a point now in season 2 where I think every single Guilty Remnant member who was a major part of season 1 has spoken significantly more this season. Obviously, Meg started off season 1 talking, and then she ended not talking, but she does speak in this episode.
Yes. There's 2 well-edited little montages. There's actually 3 montages, but there's 2 that are quite fast-paced, and it's sort of Tom going about his half of the mission while Laurie she's writing a book, a tell-all about the GR. She's getting ready for these meetings, she's pouring massive amounts of nicotine into a bowl for these...
Nicotine gum.
Sorry, nicotine gum, yes, that's an important distinction. Yeah, and just, you've got this awesome, the drumming and everything, it's all really well done.
Yeah, this is one of those things where I think of those little musical moments in The Leftovers is I can't think of many shows that would just have a jazz drum line playing in the background whilst they do these kind of montages, but it's that kind of left of centre music choices that they kind of get to. This isn't Grey's Anatomy making chasing cars into a massive hit. This is
Jose Gonzalez and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. This is something that you wouldn't... This song playing on this episode isn't suddenly going to hit the top 40.
No. Something happens at the very beginning of this that I've deliberately skipped over because I feel it makes more sense to mention it when we see it explicitly, but yeah. Put a pin in that if you know what happens. Laurie lives with Tom in an apartment, a house, I'm not quite sure. But she stays in this rented office space with Susan, who is the newest... I don't want to call them recruits, because they're sort of being lured away from being recruits, but the latest person they've taken away from the GR.
We call them, like, refugees?
Sure, let's call them refugees. So before these people can, like, accept going back to their families... They sleep in this office space, which is highly illegal, and Laurie stays with them so they don't feel alone, and she writes a book, and she tries to coax them into talking. So we see Tom passed out with a very much not full bottle of, let's say, whiskey, I don't know, and he is watching old YouTube videos of Holy Wayne in his early days, confessing to not understand how his gift works, but offering out these hugs. We'll put a great big fat pin in that until the end of this episode. But it was a cool little cameo from Patterson Joseph, for sure. I thought he was great, and I kind of, while it's a sick character, I kind of wanted to see a lot more of him. And if this is it, if this is his farewell, it's like, okay, well, we got this cute moment at least.
We'll put a pin in that.
You can see there's a toll being taken on Tommy by doing what he's doing, and like he starts off the episode a bit more smiley, but he is clearly drinking himself to sleep. But we'll see throughout, he's having to smoke a lot, he's getting screamed at. Like, we've been on the other side of it, where characters we sympathise with are doing the screaming at the horrible GR, and now we see a guy all up in Tom's face being like, fuck off, and like calling him everything under the sun.
We do get the first time he brings Susan or Susie into this kind of like therapy circle, he is all smiles and goes sits next to his mother and is like really open and inviting, which obviously clashes with his later personality when he brings someone else.
I have that written down, don't you worry. And there's also, it's a nice bit of continuity. I would say a big observation I have about season 2 is they've done an excellent job of showing the same events from alternate perspectives and sort of revealing more about something. And if we recall, Jill went and met Tom before they moved, and he said he didn't want to give her a hug because he was sick. And you get the impression he's sick because this lifestyle is not good for his mental and physical well-being. He just generally, you get the sense his batteries are just running the fuck down from doing this.
Yeah, like, family closeness is not what he wants right at that moment.
No. We see this whole thing with the landlord who's like, you've got people living there, I want more money, and he's trying to be nice about it, but you can tell this is all going. And my question is, where is any of this money coming from? Is it like the leftover money from Tom from Wayne?
Yeah, I'd assume it's leftover money for Tom from Wayne.
Yeah, because like she came straight out of the GR. She's had no departure money to access or anything, and she's got a house and she's renting an office space, buying all this nicotine gum. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, we are already 2 months away from the end of the series 1 at this point, because obviously they flash up the title card that is 2 months later.
Yes.
And so we are kind of like quite firmly within that 2 month period, because the Garveys haven't moved to Texas at this point.
Yeah.
As this episode's going on. So this is a fairly short amount of time. So 2 months rent would burn through a lot of money.
But I mean, I would assume she would need a deposit, and so I guess it is the leftover money from Wayne. I guess Tom just gave it all to her, and he's all in for this mission that they are on.
It's interesting that he is, though.
Well, he starts off pretty into it, but
yeah, but like he's been gone whilst his mum was part of this.
Yes,
and obviously I understand that like there probably is quite a strong mother-son bond between these two.
Well, had he left before?
I think the implication is that he was. I don't think he ever saw his mum as part of the Guilty Remnant.
That's what I was thinking. Like potentially, him leaving was like the last straw for her or something. So at one of these therapy sessions, some members of the GR, like not ones that have been lured away, active ones, they burst in. Obviously everyone's quite scared. They want Susan to come back. Laurie orders them to leave, and then she continues to give therapy to Susan, and like she watches over as she returns to her family slowly. So one of the refugees, let's say, they're talking about how people walk around as if it never happened, and that the things they care about don't matter. This is kind of, I'm guessing, how the GI get people in the first place. It's this, when something that colossal happens, what the fuck is the point in your mundane problems? And that's their whole ethos. None of this shit matters. They then take that to a massive extreme, but it's a valid feeling, and it's one they're talking about, and it's, I think it's healthy for Laurie to talk about these things with the people and not just pull them out and then be like, right, off you fucking go, and give them that safe space to express those feelings that led them down the path to GR in the first place.
Yeah, it's interesting that the techniques that the GR and Tommy use are very similar. Going over to people who look unwell and trying to force their hands in a different way. Obviously, the Guilty Remnant would just kind of like stand outside people's houses and try and get them to join, whereas Tommy is actively doing something to try and get people to leave the GR. But it is interesting, this kind of...
It's still seeking people out, targeting them based on how they're feeling, how they look, and sort of trying to wear them down or lure them down a path.
Yeah.
So this dude who is the leader of these people that burst in, he writes something, and Laurie screws it up into a ball and drops it. Put a big fat pin in that as well. In our next montage, we've got a "Where Is My Mind" piano instrumental. It's beautiful.
Yeah, this is the one that was used on Mr. Robot, which is just very awkward because they had written about a month of each other.
Nice. So a very nice, mirroring of Kevin there, who had his montage to that song. So we see Tom's next target, I don't want to say victim, but it's a man called Howard, who is forced to surrender his watch. I wonder if this is how the GR get all the money to buy all these corpses, that they sell everybody's possessions that joins them or something.
I mean, they probably get permission. They can't sell them until they get permission.
Obviously, it's not like they're physically ripping it off his wrist. But I wonder if they sell everything that people give up, and maybe that's how they have so much money, because those corpses, I can't remember how much they each were, but it was a fuck ton of money.
It was a fuck ton of money.
Yeah. And then, as you mentioned, or alluded to, when Tom brings Howard, he doesn't stay. He heads straight back. And he's clearly a lot less happy than he was at the beginning. And we also will get these hints that maybe he's starting to enjoy the GR a bit. Or not enjoy, but he kind of sees the point. And we'll talk about that soon. But Laurie convinces Tom to let her drive him to his meeting with Jill and to pass on a note. So, we saw this from the other side. During this scene where she's convincing him, she's watching some TV, and a man called David Burton has emerged from a cave after apparently being dead. They're talking about a resurrection near Perth, Australia, and if you recall, the letter that the man in the tower in Miracle gave to Michael was addressed to a David Burton. Kevin Sr. went to Australia. There's an episode in Series 3 called Good Day Melbourne.
That's not Perth, Matthew.
That's not Perth, but that's where David Burton was, so I think we're heading to Australia at some point. So we have a resurrection here, and last episode, or in the first episode, of Series 2, that bird was in a box under the ground, and when Erica opened it, it flew away. Is the implication this bird was dead and came back to life? Have we got resurrections happening in addition to departures? You don't have to answer that, but
nothing.
I'm saying that is a strong rhetorical question.
I am saying nothing.
Cool. So yeah, the show, like I said, it continues to be very clever with the other side of the coin, all that kind of stuff.
I love this little beat with David Burton. It's something that they did really well. It's hard for us as UK people to kind of pick up on the Perfect Strangers thing, because it was for me the first time I watched it. But now that I've seen it, I know the full context of how that goes.
Yeah, to me, it could just be a fake bullshit sitcom they made up themselves, and the cast and the crew who work on the show are starring as the people, so that they're bad actors or whatever. It could easily be that, as far as I'm concerned. But
it still is really fun as background storytelling that they do, and they do it.
There's been a lot of it.
There's little bits and pieces, and you can tell they talk about in the writers' room that part of the fun of the series is just coming up with crazy things. Yeah. And just laying them out there. We've had the goat, we've had this resurrection now happening in Australia. We've had the Perfect Strangers thing. There are other things going on.
Particle beam that destroys all human matter. That's my favourite one so far. So while Laurie's waiting for Tom, there's a fragment on her windshield. Put a pin in that, because when you realise what that is, that's kind of gross. So yeah, Laurie drives to the office the next day, or one morning, finds it padlocked. All the stuff from the office is out on the street. Her laptop is missing. She goes to the landlord and pleads for it back because it contains the only copy of her book, because she's a silly person. However, Tom does do that really not helpful thing of, you didn't email it to yourself, or you didn't post it. That's not a helpful thing to say when
it's not, but it's also exactly what your child would say to you.
Of course it is.
If you were looking for something.
Of course it is, or what your parent would say to you. The landlord denies having the laptop, so Laurie sneaks into his house.
He doesn't actually deny having it.
Well, he kind of...
He says, if I said this, then I would be admitting to having it.
Exactly. He's very glib about it. So she fucking sneaks into his house while he's not there. His wife and son are there, and she steals it back. I like her trying to blackmail him with morality and being like, oh, don't you want to go home and tell your son you're a good person? And he just goes, the kid's an asshole. It's like, yes! I want this to be like a thing that is prominent in life. Very ballsy move of her.
I mean, she full on rips the laptop out of the kid's hand while he's playing like unknown video game, which we assume is like Dota or League of Legends.
Of course we assume that then. Yeah, just snatching it right out of the kid's hand and driving away. This book means a lot to Laurie. It's very clear. And she says how I can't write it again. Like, I can't go through it. Like, we'll talk about this in like 5 minutes. On her way back, while she does some head bobbing to music that is way too cool for a person like her.
What is that song? Because that is I need to listen to that song again.
Head to tunefind.com, Ben.
I'm heading to tunefind.com right now, Matthew. Spoiler by Hyper. Oh, that's a great name.
So while she's driving, she sees some members of the GR crossing the street, and she stops for a moment, and then she full-on drives as fast as she can at them, and she hits one of them and keeps on driving, and then goes and gets her car. Well, she goes and hand washes her car with the spray and everything. And that's what she was doing at the beginning of this episode. And there was, a fragment on the windscreen. She does this regularly. She hits members of the GR with her car, and she'll explain... I mean, we might as well just say this now. When she confesses it to Tom, she says that she asks them to move. She wants them to move, and they won't.
Yeah, she revs the engine. She gives a signal like, I am not kidding around here. I am going to do this.
Yeah, she's begging them to be fucking humans who care about living or dying, basically, and to like make them snap out of it and fear for their life. Like, we saw that a part of the GR's mission is they have to accept death when it comes for them, and like. Gladys got tied to a tree and stoned to death, but we did see in that last moment she did not want it. And Patty talked about how, when the time comes, Laurie will be ready. And I guess she deep down didn't want to die, and I think she's hoping that they feel the same and that they will jump out of the way of this car and suddenly they will snap back to reality. But yeah, that's a thing she does.
I think she does. Does it make you feel sorry for the GR now?
Nope, never. Fuck those people. I have an infinite number of arguments against the GR. So Tom's next attempt goes very south indeed.
I don't think a thing that goes more south on this show.
Short of him being shot in the fucking face by the person he targeted, I really don't think it could. So he targets this kind of, angsty, squirrely looking girl. And she blows a whistle on him, literally. He is assaulted. He is put in a van. He is driven out into the middle of nowhere. Meg arrives in a lovely white dress, rapes him, tosses him out onto the road, still handcuffed, covers him in gasoline, and threatens to set him on fire, and then says, tell Laurie I said hi. I don't think a thing could go this badly. That's crazy. Let's unpack this. We've got a lot going on here. So let's start with just how Meg is presented to us. She dresses very differently. Like, the GR wear these very drab, like, overalls, like, long trousers, like, long tops, like, not a lot of exposed skin. She's now wearing this, virginal dress. It's motherly almost. I don't know. I don't think you can be motherly and virginal, but you get what I'm going for.
I think that's a very core part of the kind of image of women is like that. The flip side of the coin is that you're either the virgin or the whore.
Yes.
And I think that's very much what they're going for with this. Is they're kind of trying to imply both. She is this living contradiction in what she's wearing, and I think even if I do think this is a complete 180 from what she was doing at the start of last season, I can see the kind of steps they've made to make Meg to this point.
Well, I feel it's like she was exposed to the GR stuff and she reacted very differently to it than a lot of people do. Like, you don't really see the side of it where they bring people in and they're not into it kind of thing. Like, everyone just gets ground down eventually, and it's like she's with them in spirit or on some level, but she doesn't agree with the way they do things. And Patty's gone, Laurie's gone, there was a big fire, presumably a lot of their members died. Clearly some change has happened here, and a power vacuum has emerged, and she was into the violence and stuff. So
she is guilty remnant set to 10.
Yes.
or 11.
Do you get this idea that she is perhaps making changes to the GR, that she is perhaps taken this... I mean, she's presented as authoritative, like the other members of the GR like do what she says, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I get the sense this whistle thing came from her, because I immediately thought of when her and Laurie had the whistles given to them by Kevin in Mapleton.
Yeah, like there's an implication that there is definitely communication going on between...
Exactly. Tom even says out loud, it's not like they talk to each other, they don't talk at all. And it kind of seems like there has now been some larger organisation, some inter-chapter communication. Joining the dots, it seems like Meg has kind of implemented some stuff, handed out some whistles, given some orders, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, it feels like a better use of Liv Tyler. They're kind of taking advantage of the fact that she's kind of a little bit emotionless and taking that to their advantage.
Yes, beautiful, but quite good at being, like, cold. So
yes.
The depiction of rape in television is a very difficult area. I believe this episode aired the same year as the very controversial scene with Jaime and Cersei Lannister that was just horrificaly handled in most people's opinion. We do not see a lot of male rape in anything. It's not really talked about. It happens a fuckload. And this is interestingly handled. It 100% starts as a non-consensual encounter. But, you know, she's a very attractive woman. Clearly an erection is achieved. It seems like he potentially finishes. But, it's all very difficult.
I mean, this gets to a point where, like, you can't say it's not rape just because someone has an orgasm.
Indeed, you can't.
That happens on male and female rape. That happens in male and male rape.
Yep.
There's a very memorable episode of Outlander that deals very explicitly with this topic. That is a very tough episode to watch if you know what I'm talking about. And,
you can induce an erection in a man, I think, far more easily than you can, stimulate a woman. So just because, he got it up and he came doesn't mean that this was a consensual encounter. He does ends up enjoying it somewhat, but because it started non-consensual, this is a rape. I don't care. If you get into it halfway through, it doesn't stop being a rape.
It is rape, and it's better handled than an awful lot of rape is on television.
Yes. I think the very fact of flipping the genders around and having it a thing that a woman is doing to a man, it's, I don't want to say refreshing, but, a lot of times you see rape done as an act of violence, and, it's just this... It's kind of a cheap tactic to sort of inflict emotional trauma on a woman in a show or a film. And it is being done that way. It's presented that way, that Meg is doing it as a power thing. She is asserting herself onto Tom to get at Laurie. She explicitly is say hi to Laurie for me. And Laurie was kind of her mentor. Laurie left. Meg feels betrayed. I'm going to rape your son about it. That's... Yeah. If you flip these gender pronouns, it becomes a very dark thing. But this is an underrepresented version of this, and I think it's shot in a way that is far less egregious than Jaime raping his sister next to their dead son.
Yeah, you can tell that this is not a one-off thing. This is going to be something that is going to go somewhere.
Yeah, Meg forms little attachments to people. She kind of seemed a little bit taken with Jill when she was briefly in the GR. I think she relishes the idea of taking someone under her wing, and she's trying to remake the GR. New people are easily moldable. I don't know. She seems very fascinated by him. I don't know.
Yeah. Because this is probably the easiest comparison to make. This isn't like the Jaime Cersei rape scene where we continue along as if it wasn't a rape scene, even though semiotically every single thing the scene was presenting clearly was. The leftovers is... I'm not going to say they're going to sit down and have a frank discussion about what happened, but the psychological shading to what happened is definitely an underpinning to the relationship of these two characters going forwards, which is something that Game of Thrones definitely did not do. There was no examination of the Jaime Cersei relationship. It was just afterwards they're in love and they're happy.
Okay, mature adult conversation about a very difficult topic achieved. To completely 180 that, we see a penis, and I think our number of penises dramatically is outweighing our number of boobs seen, so go the leftovers.
Next. Although so far it is pretty much all Tommy getting his wang out. I mean, there's the Winnie Pooh guy.
I guess he has. I guess he has already, hasn't he?
He's done. This is his second time.
There's Winnie the Pooh dude. I feel there was someone else, but I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna tease this now. We will get to see another cast regular's penis before the season is out.
Anyway, so Meg speaks, which is very not GR. Patty spoke. It seemed like it was a more contextual thing. And obviously Laurie, the last time we saw her as a member of the GR, she spoke. This feels different. I think it plays into the whole she's an authority figure now thing, more than, if nothing else, that she is allowed to speak without being shushed, because the last time she spoke in the GR, Laurie literally shushed her, and I think she slapped her. So.
Like, she is still a living reminder, but she's basically throwing away a lot of the things that are kind of superfluous to being in the GR. Like the silence.
This is all coming, so let's move slightly forward. So Tom, when Laurie gets home, he's obviously quite rattled by what happened, and he screams at Laurie about how this doesn't work. And he says the words, they make sense, they know something. And, he's been infiltrating these chaps, he's been living the life, he's been, peeling potatoes and going on the patrols and smoking the cigarettes. He is basically a member of the GR, he just has to stop for a few hours at a time. And you can see that, what we've been speaking about, that, they are offering something. And he will call back to this again later when she has this discussion with him. But for now, she's in denial about it, and she says, we will win, we're going to beat them. And I want to put a pin in that, because I think that's going to be important in a minute. Because Laurie attends a meeting with a publisher who's interested in this book of hers. But just as she's going in, she receives a phone call informing her that Susan, the latest person they got out, steered her car into an oncoming semi-truck, killing herself and her husband and son. So, I kind of wanted to do this all in one thing, but I think that's such a heavy thing this needs talking about, because Susan quietly sleepwalking through a mundane life is really heartbreaking. Seeing her, she listens to white noise machines because she can't sleep very well or doesn't like silence now. She barely talks. She's going to these dinners where she's staring just a little bit too long at a fish as it's cut up. She's listening to her husband chatter inane crap about something on a holiday, and it's all really oh, this isn't going to end well. She's
the reason why she left has not been combated by what Laurie's doing. She's taken her home, but there is still something fundamentally missing.
There's a reason she left in the first place.
And just taking her home and saying that everything's okay is not enough as a therapy session.
Yeah.
We can see that what happened to Laurie, there was trauma involved in the fire, there was her daughter's almost death, and the return of her son. All of these things probably do, bit by bit by bit, weaken the GR's hold. Yeah. Whereas this woman left when she had a son and a husband, and they haven't fundamentally changed their behaviours.
Nope.
In fact, they seem to be acting exactly like nothing's happened.
Exactly, just what that person was saying earlier. She finds the note that was sort of screwing up from earlier, and it says, any day now. I don't really know what that means yet. Patty was speaking about how this thing is coming. Holy Wayne has spoken about how something is coming, so maybe it's more of that. I don't know. I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just saying, this is what triggers her, though, because the next thing we see is, she's behind the wheel of the car, and she just starts driving in that other lane while her husband furiously tries to wrestle the wheel away from her and just can't. And she just, does she close her eyes as it's happening? Yeah, and she just. So this is where I'm fuck the GR again. I know that it's arguably Laurie that did this, but the GR instill in people this idea that this sort of eagerness for death and life doesn't matter and nothing matters, and this woman killed two innocent people here. Boring people that were pretending that the life was the same, sure, but she took other people's lives here, and the GR. Again, I know the GR didn't tell her to go crash this car with her son and husband in it, but I kind of feel they were the ones that instilled this mentality in her, and I don't know, I guess just my residual thing of I hate the GR is allowing me to place some blame here when it's Laurie's fault, really. It's both. It's being ripped away from it so quickly, I think, or in an ineffective manner.
Yeah, it's another illustration of just how broken and damaged this world is, and there are no easy answers. And
I just generally am of the opinion in life that you can feel any kind of ways you want. Don't do things to other people, though. Like, the GR generally. If you all collectively feel broken and you want to sit around and talk about that, or be silent about that, that's fine. Don't do things to the people that don't feel the way you do. If you want to kill yourself, that's a heavy topic, but don't kill other people with you. So while this whole scene is tragic and, like, you feel really sorry for her as she's sleepwalking through life, I am also of the opinion, hey, you killed these other two people here, so you're not great.
No, but I do think it is part of that conversation of this is a broken world with many broken people.
It is. I understand this is such an extreme thing, and like, I keep talking about it in terms of like our world now. Like, I can't fathom this happening, so I can't say how I would take it, but yeah. Anyway, let's pivot back, because Laurie, she has this meeting. She's annoyingly chattering to sales clerks while buying her interview outfit, which seems a giant red flag that you're going to show up and they're going to hate your book. But that's not how it goes. They love her book. You know, she gets this phone call as she's about to go in. She attempts to leave, but she sort of goes into this meeting anyway, but clearly a very raw wound is open as she is attempting to negotiate this, like, very important thing. The publisher calls it the next What's Next, which was that book that dude that Nora shouted out wrote, and she called him a fraud.
How many people did he lose? He lost 5 people or 4 people or whatever it was?
One more than Nora.
One more than Nora, but of course one of them wasn't his daughter, it was his parents or whatever it was. Or...
Yes. He also calls David Burton a wingnut, which is a great insult for a potential Jesus. Just, you know, this whole meeting, it starts out a bit positive. It gets a little bit more, like, gross businessman. Like, what's the angle here? How do we emotionally manipulate people? And he starts prodding at her about... They want to know the GR's reasoning. They want to know the rules, the reason for every single one of their little things they do. And they also want this book to have a more emotional angle. And when they ask her how she feels... she assaults this man, which is just a fantastic way to end a meeting. So when she's like, you know, what do they believe? She says they believe the world ended. And, I mean, we've had this kind of intimated from Patty in that conversation with Kevin and stuff like that, but it's an interesting way to phrase it. They think the world is over, and I guess that's why they feel they have free license to do the shit they're doing, because they feel...
Yeah, the world is over, and they kind of feel that all the people going along trying to pretend that life is normal and the same are fucking insane.
Counterpoint, the world did not end. The planet is there, the people that are there are still there, so leave people alone.
I mean, yeah, sure, but again, it is a difference in point of view. Like, you can say that 2%, it's only 2%, we should carry on with life, versus this thing happened that has no explanation. What is there to do other than to just curl up in a ball and scream into the abyss?
See, this is where. Don't wallow. If something bad happens, don't just sit in a corner. Look, I've sat in a corner in my life. I've done these things, but don't, like, do it en masse and, like, make other people do it.
But the thing is, you can say don't wallow, but the thing is, you admit then that people do wallow.
Yes.
And we know the Guilty Remnant isn't a massive organisation. This is not the majority of people.
Sure.
This is an appealing thing, as we see from Tommy, in that there is something about the atmosphere and something that they do, the confidence with which they go through it, which can be appealing to people.
Yeah.
But it is still very much like people would cope like this. Maybe not exactly. If this happened in this world, the Guilty Remnant wouldn't form, but there would be these coping mechanisms that would be so alien and so off-putting to people that you really can't explain them.
So, you know, as he starts to prod more about these things, Laurie almost becomes defensive. I don't know if she feels she's defending the GR itself, but it kind of comes across that way, where she's just like, you know, oh, they never told me why they smoke, they just do, like, fuck off. And, you know, when she earlier said that the point of this book is to expose them, basically, and to trying to take members away, she's clearly got an agenda where she wants to end the GR. But then when someone else attacks it, it's almost like she's sticking up for it. I mean, I don't know if this is a whole, you know, I can insult my friends, but you can't insult your friends kind of thing. There's also the fact that when he says, I want to know how you feel, and, like, he wants to talk about the emotional side of it, obviously what's just happened with Susan has made this very emotional for her. And I don't know, I'm just left with this question of, is this genuinely the first time Laurie has, like, emotionally connected with her experience in the GR? Like, it seems like it's her mission to just get all these things onto a piece of paper and get them out of her and just tell it very matter of fact, this is what being in the GR was like, this is bad, we should get everyone out. But it feels like she hasn't actually emotionally processed the whole thing and like why she went and what she's going to do now and these kind of things. And Susan did claim earlier that Laurie is angry because she says that she knows her husband is angry, but he isn't saying anything. And she says, "You are too." And Laurie's like, no, I'm not. And I guess the point there is to underline this moment and say, yes, you are, because she violently assaults a man that says, "I want to know how you feel."
Yeah, I think there's two very important things about this conversation that need to be... the first one is, I don't think she's defensive of the GR. I think it's more of they're asking for explanation to something that wasn't explained to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like they're asking for the simplified version of why someone would turn towards the guilty remnant. And there is no easy answer. There is no one-size-fits-all answer.
I guess that's what I've been asking for all this time while being really angry at them, and you've just been telling me very rationally, like, this is how it is. And I'm like, oh, I guess you're right, but I hate them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're asking for, how can we parcel this out as a narrative story about someone overcoming something horrific? Like, we want a list of rules that can be put on the front cover, and you read about them, and you can empathise with them because you know what the rules are and why they do it. And it's like, they don't do it for any reason. They do it because cigarettes kill you. Like, they give you cancer. That's why they're doing it, because they want to die.
Well, my counter argument to that entire mentality is slit all your wrists right there and then. Why would you?
The other thing is, I do think you are right. This is the first time that Laurie has emotionally connected with what's gone on in the guilty remnant. And so what's happening is that she's written all these things down. She's written about the fire. She's written about the lighter. She's written about her daughter dying. The first word she says, she went in there being Jill's name and her ex-husband, all these other things. But they're all very matter of fact. And for someone to have read this and then list every single one of the shortcomings that you've had over the last year or whatever, when someone has just committed suicide, it's gonna kind of take you to a breaking point.
Sure.
Like, she is, as the fantastically edited montage that kind of goes on in the background.
I was about to say that, like, all the flashbacks with the fire, as him reciting her journey back to her is really well done. Like, that dude, his reading of those lines is amazing. Like, it's almost like a sports documentary or something. It reminded me of that kind of thing, of someone like interviewing an athlete and being like, "You did this, and this is what happened, and then that," and it's so heartbreaking, you know, when he's saying, like, you know, it was your husband. The guy that they made you divorce, he's the one that saved her, and all you can do is watch. And it's just like, this is really well edited together with these flashbacks of the fire as he's talking about it.
Yeah, again, we've spoken about it before, but the editing of season 2, they have kicked it up a notch in terms of how these things fit together. I
would say this is one of the best edited shows I think I've seen ever, if not. It's certainly in a long time, but it's insane some of the stuff they're doing here. So, Tom bails her out of jail, as every good son does for their mother. And they have this discussion about their operation, what is working, what isn't working. And after he points out that the GR offer people a purpose, that they are offering something, when they're bringing them away from it, they're not replacing it with anything. They're just yanking them away, and then they felt a certain type of ways in the first place. They still feel that way, and they have not been given anything to fill the hole of the GR offering them that one thing. And like Patty spoke, when she was talking to Kevin, she was like, we're giving them a reason to live, a reason to die, a reason to all these things. Like the GR believe that they are giving people purpose. That purpose is to be horrible people, but it's a purpose. After this conversation that they have, she encourages Tom to reveal to the group that he shares Holy Wayne's gift of miracle hugs at the next meeting, and that's where the episode ends, with him offering a hug. So
I have one question for this.
Sure.
When Tommy is reciting what happened after the baby is left on the floor,
are you going to ask, do I think that's true?
Yes.
Because I wrote down, is he lying? Because it sounds very credible, but I also don't believe it happened. I don't think Wayne showed up. I don't think Wayne said, you can do what I can do. I mean, him saying there'll be a sacrifice, there's a price if you're willing to pay it. That sounds like him, and like predicting his own death tomorrow. That sounds like him. But I get the feeling Wayne thought he was a very special person. Like, he was high on the idea of his power kind of thing. You see that YouTube video is very different in his presentation. Like, I get the sense it started out as, maybe it is all a con. Maybe it was an honest thing. But I feel by the end of it, he'd built this cult around himself, and he was enjoying banging all these underage Asian girls and stuff like that. And I think the notion of him passing it on to someone else, I don't buy that to him. I could be wrong. This could all be true, but it felt a lie to me.
It's just one of those interesting things, because obviously, like, the last time we see Tommy before we see him at the end of the episode in season 1 is when he's got the baby in his arms.
Yeah. There's nothing to refute that happened, but I just instinctively don't believe it.
And we know that Wayne is in the area. Like, we know Wayne dies very close to where Tommy is, because they're both within half a day's drive of Mapleton. So, like, they're in the same vicinity.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yep. Entirely plausible. And, like, you know, he did go to, you know, he did take the baby to Kevin, but, I mean, that seems like a good move anyway. I don't know. Laurie saying they like my book when Tom bails her out is a wonderful line reading, and then just bursting into tears. I thought that was a funny little moment to cut the tension of the last 10 minutes of horror. Tom puts a lot of pressure on Laurie to keep her shit together, and like, you know, it's like, I know you're fucked up, but other people count on you, so stop it. It's like, okay, I'm not sure that's a cool thing to say, but fair enough. And I love his observation about, you know, they're offering something, we're not. And her, that like snaps it into place for her. Okay, we need to give them something. And if you put together, you know, the YouTube video he was watching and this kind of thing, I guess they're weaning him off a hard drug onto a softer drug, essentially.
Yeah.
Because we still don't know if Wayne's thing is legit. It clearly works for people because Nora got better after she did that, but we still don't know if it's a kind of, it's just psychological and endorphins, and like he's saying the right combination of things to like put you in a certain emotional state, and then the hug like gives you the endorphin rush, and then you feel better. Or if it is genuinely a supernatural gift, we don't know that. But Tom is stating that he can do this now, and he mentions this price. He doesn't tell us what that price is. I don't know if that'll ever come back up. If it doesn't, they're assholes for putting that idea in my brain. But yeah, Tom is now claiming he's Holy Tom, basically.
So we've now had 3 episodes of season 2, all very, very different.
Yeah, 3 different perspectives, our 3 sort of groupings of characters kind of thing.
So how are you finding it so far, I think, is this feels like a point to kind of like...
I like it. You kind of warned me I may not like this one because you know I hate the GR and stuff, and I'm not a huge fan of Laurie a lot of the time, and you know I spent our first season calling Tom our resident dumbass and stuff like that. I quite enjoyed seeing her talking, seeing them trying to take down the GR. I will say, as much as I've complained in the last sort of half hour, I found the sort of presentation of the whole GR mindset and like why people do it far more satisfying than anything we had in season 1, including the very well acted monologue by Patty about the whole philosophy. I think it's just a general season 2 is just doing everything a bit better.
Yeah, like season 2 is they went away and they just figured out a lot of shit about the show.
Yeah, and like it's not that the GR they didn't just wave a wand and say, okay, everyone hates the GR, let's get rid of them. They just retooled it, I think, and like Meg is quite literally doing that. She's changing them, and Laurie is out, and Tom and these patients, they are giving us a perspective that I think is more satisfying to hear than just this is what they are. Fuck you. So. Yeah, I did enjoy that episode. I thought it was pretty well done. And it was quite breezy as well, like it moves, I think.
It does.
Alright, let's move on. Orange Sticker aired October 25th, 2015, directed by Tom Shankland, another debut. I know nothing of his work either.
I'm going to click on his name and see what he did.
Alright then.
I can do you like Daniel Sackheim and people like that, but they've not done stuff yet. He directed 2 episodes of The Punisher.
Oh, cool. I like The Punisher.
You do like The Punisher.
I feel there's like a 50-50 split. People like or do not like The Punisher. Written by Damon Lindelof and Tom Speziale, who I learned in our pre-show warm-up is a producer on the show. So,
I mean, I think you can basically assume that an awful lot of writers on the show are also producers.
I wouldn't necessarily assume that.
I mean, quite often, especially with a show with the writers' room this small, quite a few of them are also producers. Actually, he's also a producer on the Watchmen pilot as well. So
there you go, that team, they're going forward. So we're moving back to the present day. Kind of.
We were obviously like a day or 2 behind in the last episode, but we're now up to the the thing we saw at the end of episode 1, episode 2.
Yes, with the apparent second departure, big earthquake, Kevin wakes up at the bottom of a lake, all that stuff. We see it from Nora's perspective. Sleeping away, middle of the night, earthquake, wakes up, freaks the fuck out. Kevin is missing, and she learns from Erica that Evie never came home. The performance from Carrie Coon, the heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, soul-destroying, did it happen again to the police, is amazing. Trying to get internet, trying to get TV, can't find anything. She faints as well, and there's a very amazing camera shot there of the world turning upside down. It's amazing. What an actress Carrie Coon is. Yeah,
it's every single thing about that is Erica says exactly the wrong things to her.
Yes, she never came back.
She never came back. She's gone. They're all gone.
Yeah.
And then a dog runs down the street.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that implied to be their dog? Did Kevin go get it while he was sleeping and set
No, that's not their dog. It is just a dog who has got away from its owner.
Okay. Well, I mean, we know the last time there was a departure, dogs started running free because their owners departed and they freaked out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if... I mean, this is going to recur throughout this, but when that guy from MIT was trying to buy her house, he very clearly said, about preventing it happening again, and she's like, you think it's going to happen again? And he says, why wouldn't it? And I get the feeling since then, this idea has been in her head. However, there'll be a bit more about this as we go. But yeah, just her fucking calling the police and saying, did it happen again? Are people gone? It's like, oh my fucking God. That's heartbreaking. What an amazing thing. Kevin comes home in the middle of this phone call. She is elated, hugs him furiously, and then silently goes to bed, clearly very angry. And Patty says, or apparent ghost of Patty or mental projection of Patty says, looks like you've got some explaining to do, sport. And, we'll see this with Nora throughout the episode. Of course, she is incredibly glad he's back. However, why would you put me through this?
You get everything from her point of view. She is completely vindicated in her treatment of him in this scene, particularly.
Yeah. When a kid runs away from home, you hug them to death when they get home, and then you shout at them. That's what happens.
I love Patty as the kind of almost Greek chorus off to the side, who's just commenting on everything,
just smarky comments and just kicking Kevin while he's down. It has evolved into just a fun buddy cop thing, or a two-person act. It's a lot of fun.
It's just it's a really good use of Anne Dowd, because she gets to be filthy, which
yes, she does.
is so good coming from this comparatively quite sweet looking woman.
Yep. He never once asked me to shit on him. So Kevin the next morning tells Jill and Nora what happened, minus the fact that he's seeing Patty and the cinder block tied around his ankle. And he states he can't find his phone. He deduces it's probably still in the drained lake. The police show up and ask him to help with the search because he's got a big truck. Big trucks are helpful. And he discreetly spends the entire day looking for his phone, and he remains behind when everyone else has gone at sundown, and he eventually finds it. I'm sort of simplifying that quite a lot, but Nora's advice about, hey, if you start looking in the area, then if someone finds it, you can say you lost it while looking. And he's like, that's really smart. She's like, yeah, fucking of course it's smart. I'm amazing. And she plays this really well as well, where there's an urgency to what they have to be doing. So she's like, of course, she goes straight with him. And it's like, oh, do you need help? And all this sort of stuff. But then she is still pissed at him.
And she's logical, but also she's not going to hide the fact that she's got emotions about this.
Yes. Kevin is unable to remember his address because he's just moved there, and also he has trouble with things. So
he's not doing very well mentally.
Looks pretty shifty. John Murphy bails him out. So Patty is the one that kind of guides him to his phone. I'm gonna fuck with the narrative heavily here and section Nora off into her own bit and Jill and Michael off into their own bit, and we're just gonna do this way. So spoilers there, but Patty is warmer, red hot, and then he finds his phone. And then she's like, oh, you shouldn't get into that truck or that car. And then John pulls up in his truck. And it's like, And this is again playing into that thing of anything that is ostensibly supernatural could also be logical. This could all just be his subconscious. He could have heard that truck, but not really registered it. And we as the audience could have not heard it as an unreliable narrator type dealio. And he could have just, mentally projected that. He could have just noticed the phone and then mentally experienced that. Or she is able to interact with the physical world, knows things that he doesn't, and gives him information on demand. It could be either. It's juicy as fuck.
Oh, it's such a good because they do it so many times throughout this episode where information is imparted that on a surface level feels like he should not know it.
But then you can just about fudge your way to an explanation as to how he could.
Yes.
And we will get that quite literally later. But so John picks him up in his truck. He drives him out of Jarden and to a motel where he assaults Isaac with a baseball bat, winds up getting shot in self-defense, and Kevin takes him to Erica to patch him up. So Kevin obviously left a muddy handprint on the window of the car, of Evie's friend's car, and when he sort of hears someone mention this, that there's a handprint they found, he freaks out, obviously, because they take it away for analysis. He's scared to death they're going to pull his prints off it. I don't know if that's even possible. I mean, it could be. Like, I don't see why not. But, you know, that's the way they're framing all of this, is that he has moments before he is rumbled here, that, like, he was at the scene and he has no way to explain this away. And when John picks him up, obviously we've experienced John as quite a adversarial character. Like, he is positioned as, like, a rival to Kevin, who, while he has his shitty elements, is still our protagonist. So, and it's all done very creepily, where, like, when he's driving him away, you know, it seems like he's taking him to hurt him. Like, he misses the turn to where they live, and he's not giving him information, and, like, John's crew are, like, begging him not to do this, and he's, like, parading him through the people that camp out outside Miracle, and all this kind of stuff, and he's saying how these people came here to feel safe. He's saying Kevin came here to feel safe, but this place is no safer than anywhere else. It's all filmed in a way that is making you believe John knows that Kevin was there, and John is going to go potentially murder Kevin. That is not at all the way it plays out, and it's a wonderful example of how this season has played with tension in a really, really great way. Everything in season 1 feels like quite a raw thing, and it's all just out in the open in a way. This feels like we're going to really take you down some avenues and fuck with you a bit.
Yeah, like, this is probably like the clearest example of, well, not the clearest example, but like this is a very strong example of we only see things from Kevin's perspective.
Yes.
Or from Laura's perspective, or from Jill's perspective. So we don't cut to John in the conversation with his fire people. We have Kevin wind the window down to listen to the conversation.
And you get it from him overhearing it. And then Patty confirms, you framed someone without even trying. But, like, up until that point, it's all extremely tense and extremely, like, he's going to leave you out here and, like, or beat you to death or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't even consider that you could take it this way. Obviously, Isaac's whole thing was he read people's palm prints by, like, you know, the paint on paper, and he told John something bad was going to happen to him. His daughter's missing, and then there's a palm print on his windshield, and he says, it was, like, left for me as a message. I was like, oh, okay, I can see why you would irrationally get to this point. I will counter, though. People did still take this truck away to test it. Kevin's fingerprints are still potentially going to be linked to this, but for now, he's in the clear, kind of. And, you know, we get more of John, his steadfast belief that, like, this place is not special. Fuck you if you think it is. Kevin reveals in the midst of this he was a cop. John's like, no shit. He's like, okay, we established last time he doesn't know that yet. He now does. We'll see if that goes anywhere. And then Isaac, when John's being dragged away, he confirms, you know, he says about John, you know, there's nothing more dangerous than a man who doesn't believe in anything. And, you know, linking it to this thing that John is a slightly unhinged individual because he is almost religious in his anti-religious feelings, you know, like his insistence that anyone that tries to claim anything is special is wrong, and him burning down Isaac's house because he has these claims, he has kind of become the thing he hates in some ways. So, like, I don't know, like, yeah, he's got his own militant beliefs, and they are, well, I know he says he doesn't believe in anything, but, you know, his lack of belief has become a belief, and it's as dangerous as what the GR do and what Wayne did and all this stuff.
The thing is, it's also contrasting with, or not contrasting with, but also combining with, he's very rash.
Yes.
We find out in episode 1 that he shot a man and went to prison.
Well, he says attempted murder.
Attempted murder.
Guess I didn't try hard enough.
Guess I didn't try hard enough. But we get to see the seeds of that, which is like something has triggered him, and his immediate response is to go with the baseball bat to this man's house.
Yeah, he acts immediately on what his gut instinct is. So you see it a lot. He says things that, you know, he maybe shouldn't, and all this stuff.
And he's running on such sheer adrenaline he can walk through a gunshot to the stomach.
I thought that was really well played. Like, Kevin just saying, hey, you've been shot. Like, I'm sure this shit happens. Like, people, and then I feel it's something people comment on. It's like, oh, yeah, they didn't even feel the gunshot. And it's like, I think that can happen. Like, you're on such an adrenaline high that you don't even register it. And then, oh, shit, I'm dying. So when Erica is patching him up, she puts him under, and she talks to Kevin a little bit about Evie and Michael. And she says that they are actually twins, but Evie was 2 months premature or several weeks premature. I didn't even know.
24 weeks.
Wow, that's a lot of weeks premature. I didn't even know that is a thing that could happen. I did not know you could have twins and have one of them born prematurely, but apparently that is a thing. And she explicitly says that Evie is special, this town is special, completely not what her husband believes, and yet she doesn't really seem to disapprove of the shit that he does. So, interesting. And she says that the town, things are going to change now, because, I mean, we get it presented to us by two different characters. This was another departure. It's happened again in the town where there were no departures. So I thought that was all very interesting, that she doesn't believe what her husband believes, but she also doesn't really do much to stop him. I mean, you know, if she even could, but she doesn't, like, give any verbal disagreement to him.
Yeah, it's almost like their relationship is complicated.
Mm-hmm. I get that sense.
Yeah, from the fact that he went to prison and all these other little bits and pieces, and we will get...
And her secret morning runs where she doesn't smoke, but she does resurrect baby birds.
Don't worry, we are getting to Emmy winner Regina King's episode.
Oh, cool.
She didn't win for this series, but she did win an Emmy while she was on The Leftovers.
Okay, cool. And she's in Watchmen, right?
She is in Watchmen.
Cool. Alright, so I left out a lot of stuff there because I kind of want to do this in one blob. We're going to go to it and then come back. But throughout this episode, Patty is needling at Kevin and trying desperately to get him to acknowledge her, to talk back to her, and he keeps almost doing it, but then not. And her biggest claim is that he wants to kill himself, and that he attempted to kill himself in that lake, and that divine intervention saved him, and that this was a second departure. Those are statements she makes. But let's delve into some more stuff about this, because while Kevin is heading to what he thinks is Isaac's motel room, she starts talking about her ex-husband Neil's affairs, about his proclivities, and it's filthy as fuck. And
we don't kink shame him, Matt.
No, I meant her phrasing. The things she is having to say are filthy. As you were saying, that she seems like a quite nice lady. And, you know, this is more of the stuff that, like, there's no way he could know this. However, she explicitly she right on the nose says, Laurie was my therapist. Did she tell you this? I've always wondered. And it's like, that could be the case. She could have told Kevin, and Kevin could then be, you know, projecting this accurate version of Patty. Or maybe she's selling him for the first time. We still don't know.
I love that it ties into the little piece about Laurie asking Patty to shit in a bag. Season 1. Neil likes shit, so
a shit on his doorstep.
So he shit on his doorstep.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so many little things that have payoffs in ways that aren't explicit, and also the fact that this conversation happens at all.
Yeah,
is just further proof that it's not TV. Yeah. It's HBO, like no other TV show could discuss. Retired
cop and ghost solving crimes in a world where the rapture happened is a show I am 100% about and wish was in place from episode 1, but here we are. So it goes from very lighthearted and funny to extremely heavy. As Patty says, Kevin doesn't have love. He and Nora don't love each other. Both their families blew up, so they are just clinging desperately to each other so that they have something. It's all just damage control, as she puts it, and that he doesn't truly love her. And that he is a suicidal person, and like, if you truly loved your family, then you wouldn't want to kill yourself, and you wouldn't want to hide that, and all this stuff. Justin Theroux's tears in his eyes as he says, I don't want to kill myself, like almost whimpering it. And her response, well, you're certainly entitled to your opinion, but I'm glad we talked about it. All of this is amazing and heartbreaking, and I don't want to get heavy and I might edit this out, but in these minutes I identified extremely strongly with Kevin, and it's crazy how much chemistry these two actors have.
I know, it's they are so good, and it's such an interesting dynamic, is that TV has done suicide stories before, but this is like this isn't that. This is kind of dealing with
why he wants to, not
or
I mean, she
like,
spells it out. She's like, some people try to commit suicide for attention, some people genuinely want to die, like me and you. And it's just the concept of telling someone, hey, you want to kill yourself, while they go, no I don't, is extremely uncomfortable and awkward and tense and beautiful and tragic and there
are a few more definitive ways to commit suicide than tying a cinder block to your ankle and then jumping in a lake. At night as well. Like, there is no one who is going to swim down and untie you from this. Like, that is a fairly...
And, like, we had it raised in the Garveys at their best that Kevin was depressed pre-departure, that he has always been depressed, that he doesn't really feel, like, satisfied with anything, that, like, he just has this feeling in him. He is truly depressed. He's honestly real-world depressed, not glamorous TV depressed. And despite that, it wasn't until this that I actually even considered that he was trying to kill himself. I was like, oh, he blacked out and got into it with the girls, and they, they're crazy naked wood runners. They tried to throw him in the lake because it's all special, and he barely survived. And I was like, okay, sure. It's actually more likely he did try and kill himself. If we believe everything Patty says, that's what happened. But again, we don't know that. We don't know he did it because he doesn't have his memories of what he does while he sleepwalks. So it's all insanely heavy stuff. This could just be like a paranoid voice in his head, but she presents a lot of things as facts here that like do make a lot of sense. And I think saying definitively they disappeared, this was another departure, is a very interesting card to play on this show. So that scene ends with the man at the top of the tower who wants his letter sent to David Burton. He says, who's your friend? And again, can he see her? Is he just commenting on the fact this guy's talking to himself? And
like he's at the top of a tower. He's not probably the most sane person in the world.
Indeed.
Himself.
And speaking of people that can potentially see people and may not be sane, Nora meets Virgil, who is this old dude who confronted Kevin in episode 2 and was he seemed to know what was up with Kevin. And Michael went and prayed with him, and he lives on the edge of town in the Christmas lights-covered trailer. Clearly a local oddball, because, when he immediately identifies that she has lost people on site, and then the cashier, tells him off, oh, you can't be in here doing these things. It's like, well, I need to know more about you immediately. Nora goes in, she buys alcohol and cigarettes. I love that she says, therefore my boyfriend, I'm enabling him. Nora's amazing. She goes home and she gets drunk with Jill, or she drinks with Jill, and it's a really, really nice scene.
Who knew that taking Margaret Qualley away from just a load of other teenagers would make her infinitely more interesting?
Indeed. Yeah, just... so good, just them, you're 18, right? 17, close enough.
And considering the drinking age in America is 21 as well,
that's true.
It's even better. She's asking, are you 18? No, I'm 17. Oh, it's cool. You're 4 years under the drinking limit.
And Jill drops the very wise bombshell. Wherever you go, there you are. Because they're talking about why Kevin sleepwalks, and she presents this idea that, he had to be the one who had his shit together while everyone else was losing their minds because he was the chief of police. A job and he didn't want because
his dad was losing his mind.
Exactly. And then just that stress has gotten to him and he sleepwalks. And, potentially that's where it is. And, Nora counters, well, he's not in charge here. And Jill kind of accidentally mining to the core of this. Kevin is stuck with himself and he has some deep mental issues. We also learned from this conversation Nora's job before the survey thing used to be there were reports of second departures like what has happened here, and she had to verify them, and she hunted down a man who faked his departure. We saw in a previous episode that one of the members of Perfect Strangers faked his departure. So I think this is contrary to what we had before, wherein she didn't even consider that there could be another departure. I mean, maybe that makes sense that she spent her living hunting down people because she was adamant this can't happen again. But I don't know, it almost seemed like an alien concept that anyone could even suggest this could ever happen again, and she used to, for a living, deal with people who claimed that it did. So I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it's like that comparison of like she spent her life proving it, but then to have a scientist so blatantly say like it
Why
probably can happen. Yeah, like it's that combination of her fear is that it's going to happen again, and she gets this job to disprove it.
Sure.
But then a scientist comes along and is just like, we've got no proof to say that it isn't. And then the start of this episode happens. Like she is worried that it will happen again, and she's doing all these things to try and mitigate that worry within herself.
That's fair. She presents this idea of Noah's Ark, and that the people that departed are the two of every animal, and everyone who's left is the flood, I guess. And like, why would they stop for more? And it's like, that's a weird way to look at it, but okay.
So let's pin that.
Okay. So she, fueled by alcohol, goes over to confront Matt and asks him to confirm this place, because she came here because she wanted to feel safe. Like, she is so hurt by the departure, she came to the place that is departure proof on the surface. She needs to feel safe again.
And she gets this kind of like very, like when she sees Matt earlier on in the episode, he's going along with their mantra of like, we are the 9,621, and she kind of looks disgusted at him that he would claim to be one of these people when...
This is true. I hadn't actually considered that. Yeah, fuck that dude. When she confronts him, we get what was clearly going to be said by him at the sermon where he was cut off. Matt reveals that on their first night in Jarden, Mary recovered for a single evening and then returned to her condition, that they fell asleep in each other's arms, they laughed, they cried, and now this again. And that kind of gives Nora an answer that she was hoping for, I guess, because instead of being angry at him, she hugs him and cries, and it's all very well done. But yeah, he also says that nobody around here wants him to share this story, and I'm left thinking, why? Because when we saw it in the episode, it kind of seemed like it was to protect him from John. Like, everyone knows what John's like, so like, they didn't want to put him in danger. But like, if everyone in this town doesn't want this being like a thing, why are they like selling souvenirs and including this in their prayers? And like, I don't know, it just seems contradictory. Like,
I think it's the difference though, is like, you can treat this place as where something special happened, something out of the ordinary, but you can't make it seem like something special happened here because this place is special. Okay.
Like, we were lucky, we're not specially gifted, and like, this isn't a magical town.
Yeah, the water isn't magic, it doesn't make people healthy,
But they're happy to sell it to people.
They're happy to make money off of it, and they're happy to say this thing happened. We're not gonna deny that this thing happened, but we are gonna deny that it happened for a reason.
Okay. With Mary upped to a series regular and Matt claiming she, this is what I guessed at, and I guess it's the obvious thing, but like, we will look out for if she gets to do some acting in the future.
Or whether or not they're just giving her this paycheck, because to get Janelle Maloney to come to Texas and sit in a wheelchair for probably a few months worth of filming is a little bit cruel if you're not going to pay her a decent amount of money.
Sure is. Anyway, when Kevin returns home, as we marry up Nora's story and Kevin's story, Nora embraces him. We get the lovely "You're the One That I Want" cover, and Nora, she handcuffs them together as they go to sleep, which is a good solution to his sleepwalking until he, violently assaults her and frees himself while he's sleeping. But, that bridge when we come to it. It's a beautiful little scene between the two of them. Kevin states he doesn't believe they'll ever find the girls, and I would imagine Nora doesn't enjoy hearing that because it confirms that this is a departure, but we'll see.
We will.
Okay, so absent here, because I just thought we'd do it at the end, Jill attempts to comfort Michael, who has mostly been left at home while his parents look for his sister. While they're talking, he confidently states, with conviction, that Evie is gone, that she has departed. And he also explains these orange stickers, which is where the episode gets its title from, which are on the houses, that verify no one was departed in that residence. And the episode ends with him removing the orange sticker from his house, or attempting to. So while he's like fixing the sink for her, she is eye-fucking the shit out of him. She spends the entire episode lusting after this boy, who is very upset. Don't prey on vulnerable people, Jill. He seems like he's tying the departure in with God, because he says, when I try and explain this to people who are not religious or who don't believe in God, they think I'm crazy. And it's like, To do that is to say that this was the biblical rapture, which, as I understand it, is a one-time event, so I don't know why he would think that this is another departure, but I could be wrong. It could be that the rapture was a thing that took place over an extended period of time, but the way I understood it, it was a one-time happening, and then...
Yeah, like, of all the books in the Bible, the Book of Revelations is probably the most specific about the events, the cause of events, and the time frame in which events happen, of any book in the Bible, really.
I don't know, it just seems interesting to me, because if you're saying this was the rapture, there's not two the raptures, there's one the rapture. It's a big T, big R event, was my understanding, but we'll see about
it. It is interesting to get another kind of religious character in the show, though, that isn't Matt.
One that isn't annoying. Yeah, the final scene with him scraping that sticker off is quite creepy. Like, you hear the noise, and Jill looks out at the night, and the camera pans a long way around the street as you just hear this noise, and it's almost telltale signs of, like, some horrible thing is happening, but it's just he's very sadly removing his sticker, and it's like, oh, well, I'm sad now. And that's the end of your episode. Good, again. Probably my least favourite of... Well, I don't know, because the stuff with Kevin and Patty is really, really good.
Yeah, I think the only reason I'm a little bit down on this one is because we're returning to a place we've already been to before.
Sure.
Like, we've seen the point of view of the Garbies, and this is the one that kind of has to set in play a lot of pieces that move around, and it's not quite as breathless as the first 3 episodes, but this is still better than episodes 1, 2, or 4 of season 1 of The Leftovers.
Yeah.
By like a long shot. Like, this is continuing the upward trend of The Leftovers. It's the first one that I wouldn't say is comparable to, like, A Guest or Two Boats and a Helicopter from season 1, but it's still good. It's still an enjoyable episode of television with some absolutely terrific performances, and yeah, it's just that upward trend continues.
Speaking of performances, let's rank some characters. I assume you want me to go from the bottom of the list to the top, as usual.
Of course.
Okay, number 12, Meg. She raped a dude. Like, I'm sorry, but she did. She is also now the heir apparent leader of the GR, who I hate. So, yeah, Meg's a bad person. But it feels weird to say in a more enjoyable way. She's less annoying and more just evil. So
yeah, like she's an actual villain now, rather than like someone who you're maybe supposed to sympathise with.
Yeah, and this is a likability thing on like the content of the character, not just like, oh, I don't even want to see this character. It's just she is the least likeable person presented to us. John, number 11. I mean, he does go to try and beat a man to death with a baseball bat and lies to Kevin and stuff, but I feel he's kind of less evil than he was the first couple of times we saw him, and yet here he is near the bottom. I
mean, he's carrying around the present that Evie gave him for his birthday.
This is true. I mean,
we still don't know what's in that.
These characters are well executed. I feel some of the ones in Series 1, and it's just like, you're at the bottom because you just are objectively a bad character. Like, poorly done. Oh yeah, she got to the top somehow. This is now more like, all these characters I think are well executed now, and it's like, I think you're trash. Erica, number 10, she sort of goes along with John, even though she doesn't believe in what he does. Laurie, number 9, she's away from the GR, but there's still some stuff about Laurie where I'm just like, can you please just deal? I don't know. And she caused those people to die. She gave bad therapy. She also, when she was giving that therapy with Susan and her husband, she kept talking about Susan as if she wasn't a person in the room. And I'm like, hey, poor form. You're a therapist. You should know better. Number 8, Matt. I mean, Matt is Matt. I don't know.
I think the most Matt thing about this episode is when Nora walks into the church and he's just talking at Mary.
Just babbling to Mary. That poor woman, if she can understand everything he says. I mean, I guess he just wants to talk out loud and give her company. I don't know. It's a difficult situation. Number 7, Tom. Seeing him be a bit more, like, engaged with things that aren't objectively dumb is good. We're still not at peak Tom, which was the Garveys at their best. I mean, it makes sense. He was at his best. Where, he was happy and fun and charming. But we're going in the right direction, I think. And he feels like a player as opposed to a pawn. Or he's starting to feel that way, anyway. Mary, number 6. I can't say anything either way, so she just lives in the middle. Kevin drops to number 5. Difficult stuff. It's not his fault that he sleptwalked, but he did that to Nora. Nora's a pure sweet angel of light, so he is punished for this. And I don't know. I guess Kevin didn't actually really do anything bad here, but still. Patty at number 4, because she's become pure fun, an agent of fun. So she gets to climb up. Michael at number 3, he's really inoffensive and it feels quite a high place to put him, but he's just a nice kid, I guess.
He's just nice.
Yeah, Jill, number 2, also a nice kid now. Weird. Very charming, very fun, funny even. Very wise. If not for the fact that Nora is a pure sweet angel of light and lives at number 1 forever and ever, Jill might have gotten the top spot here. Good episode from Jill. It's weird. I kind of feel like I don't know what this list is anymore because I'm arguing both ways, where it's like, I don't like you as a person versus I don't think you're a well-executed character. I think Meg is a better executed character than someone like Matt or Michael. However, she is a villain, so she must live at the bottom. So I don't know. I might have to rethink how I rank these.
If you want to retool it, we can retool it. But at the moment, I just enjoy listening to your reasons for liking and disliking characters.
Yeah, I'm looking at these people. I'm like, hey, fuck you. And that's why.
Because I've got a lot of fun. Like, you say things about characters, and I'm just like, oh, you haven't got to this bit yet. Where
Nora's gonna murder everyone. Right. So, have you got any miscellaneous stuff you want to point out about either of those two?
we have covered everything in terms of David Burton and like little bits and pieces that are.
I'm listening out now. I'm paying attention to little side things because those are the things they're doing things that intrigue me now. Rather than very tiny, so subtle, there's no way you could possibly pick up on it on a first watch, little character beats. So, we got into it, very extensive. I feel, and, we've noticed as the show's gotten better, there's been more to discuss. So, there you go. Longer episodes because the episodes are better.
Boy, I can't wait for our 2-hour discussion about the finale.
Alright, well, that's a while away yet.
It is.
But next, episode 8 next time, we will have episodes 5 and 6 of season 2. I have no idea what to expect, and I look forward to watching them. I'm very excited to see where the show goes now. It's getting harder and harder to stop at the 2 that we're going to be talking about.
It is. I mean, I just want to mainline it now. I mean, I'm so excited for one moment that's coming up so soon. I feel like we should just publish your text messages when you watch.
Maybe well, that's difficult because there are so many that scrolling will take forever. But
it will. I'm going to try and get photographs
or
of
compile
when you watch a particular episode.
All right, that is in the future. We will see you next time. Thank you. This has been Countdown to Destruction, which you can find at entertherealworld.com. Mike and Matt on SoundCloud. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
I've got chills. They're multiplying.